Welcome to the new P&L, Patterns and Leaders. Every month, business leaders review a profit and loss statement to understand the results of their business. But what if there was another P&L? One that reflected the patterns, leadership, growth, trust, and human decisions behind those results. Last time we got together, we asked whether the business was simply getting bigger or whether the leader was truly growing. Today, we're asking another question. Who is leading the leader? Joining me today is Kryssi Murrell, co-owner of K&K Accounting Services. Kryssi understands the role of accountability and how it plays in healthy organizations and the importance of having people who can bring clarity, honesty, and perspective to difficult decisions.
And joining me is Michael Winn, CEO of RBOA. Michael is deeply interested in leadership development, collective achievement, and the way leaders grow when they become willing to examine their own patterns.
All right, Kryssi. So here we are. Imagine we have two successful business owners. Both have talented teams. Both have respected organizations in their community. Both are responsible for important decisions. And both have achieved meaningful success. But their relationships with feedback are very different. So let's examine leader A. Leader A, for the majority, makes decisions alone. Typically receives information in a filtered kind of a format, is rarely challenged, believes decisiveness requires certainty, becomes increasingly isolated, creates dependence on personal judgment. Leader B invites honest feedback, maintains trusted peer relationships, uses coaches, advisors, or a board, makes room for disagreements, reflects on personal growth patterns, creates stronger decision-making around the organization. So again, they have the same authority, but they have a slightly different approach when it comes to accountability.
From the outside, both leaders may appear successful, but the second leader has created a system that makes continued growth and better judgment more likely.
Exactly. Leadership does not eliminate the need to be led. In many ways, it actually makes that need even greater. You know, I had shared previously on one of the other episodes where I was meeting with a colleague and I asked them that very question, who is leading you? And Kryssi, they looked at me and like deer in the headlights and was like, whoa. And so I think how I interpreted that response was that leadership can feel isolating. I know as a CEO, and I know, Kryssi, you probably do as well, like there are just some decisions that we have to make that if we don't have a sounding board or another colleague, that leadership can become isolating. You feel like you're kind of on an island.
I agree.
And I like the idea of some of the attributes that we pointed out with that leader B scenario, because I think that feeling of loneliness or isolation certainly can create the opposite of feeling like you're growing.
Correct.
And so I think it's an important question that every CEO, every executive director, every person who is at the top of the decision-making tree needs to ask themselves the question, who is leading me? I know, Kryssi, you and I have talked about, one way that we're led is just by, content that we consume, right? Whether it's a podcast that we listen to, right? We're influenced by the speakers and the subject matter, or maybe it's a YouTube version of a podcast. Um, what do you think are some of the channels or ways that leaders are led that maybe aren't as clear as one would think?
I think leaders, well, for me, I have a great mentor, right? I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'll ask a million questions, like a million. Um, but I think it's just being comfortable enough to notice that you need help, right? And you're okay being led. So instead of the isolation, I think in your description of number A, letter A, that could be isolation, but then company B is more of a collective leader because they're not cut off. They're listening, they're being led, they're in coaching groups, they're wanting to learn how to be better.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I know for me, I've had the good fortune of being in a couple of small CEO groups. I had one last year that I was in. That was really a really fantastic program that was developed by a local organization through the small business development component of one of our colleges here locally. And that was a CEO roundtable. And I found a really tremendous value because after like the second meeting, we all figured out that this is a safe place. We can
Mm-hmm.
talk about the things that we're actually wrestling with. And that's the thing. Like I think having trusted peers is certainly an important component, but you get what you put in, right? Because I feel like when I go into those types of environments, I go in with, I'm open-minded, I'm growth oriented, and I'm going to be vulnerable. Like that's just how I'm wired. And so I think that creates, again, what you're going to get out of it, right? Whereas everybody goes in and are like, oh, I'm a badass because I'm doing this and that, and they're all, touting, then I don't know. It has a different there's a different feel, there's a different atmosphere, uh, depending on what you have,
Right. Who's going to be the first one to speak up if it's like that to say, I'm having issues. I need help, you know?
for sure. I think that for definitely for me, the next sort of thing that I think about in terms of how am I being led, I think our businesses are a mirror to us, because at the end of the day, if we're the ones making the decisions, to hire, to fire, to give a raise, to give a promotion, to assemble teams, well, with that responsibility comes great accountability,
Correct.
and so if things get off track, or if, there's bottlenecks that are forming, or, you know, no one's experimenting, no one, people are afraid to take risk. Like we create the environment within our organizations, and so yeah, I think that's maybe that first reflection of, hey, you're the boss, and
Right.
if you don't like how things are going, that's on you.
Right. There's no fingers to point. Point
There are
point
no
it right back
fingers.
at yourself.
That's right, for sure, there's definitely not. um I think another one that's really difficult sometimes to face as a leader is wrestling with trust versus control. Because I think from what as I grew up and went through my career path through corporate America before coming to RBOA, I definitely experienced, we talked about this in the last episode, right? The 110% myth, right? Where people are trying to squeeze out that
Yeah.
110%. We talked about that. Um, and I've also experienced the opposite side of leading in a way that actually helps team members become more as
Mm-hmm.
a person. Now, I'm not just talking about, their character traits. I am talking about who they are in the role that they are in,
Correct.
right? And I think that comes with trusting that you really do believe in the framework or the culture, or we use Clifton Strength Finders, and written on my board here in my office, I've got every team member listed. I've got their top 5 core characteristic strengths. Every day it's right here in front of me. I look at it, and it helps me to think when I'm speaking with a team member, are they the type of person that needs clarity, that needs a very mapped out strategic outline, or do they need to begin with a more collaborative discussion that's almost like ideation, and they get excited, right?
Yeah.
Both of those I have seen actually produce and create that confidence and trust in that team leader within the organization. So it's not right or wrong. It's just how that person is wired and how they're going to respond to either the vision or the new direction or the creation of the new team or the client relations, right? And I think we've had this conversation before as well too. That whole idea of you do what I say because I'm the boss. We talked about that last time, and man, that just doesn't land that great. Now, again, I understand there are people who need direction, that need that boss to have authority, and please make sure you understand. Like, I'm not saying that we're not providing that, right? I'm just saying that it matters how it lands. And if you truly start with understanding what are the strengths of this leader in my organization, and am I speaking to them in their language, I think that matters a lot. And the reason why I can say that is I am seeing how my leaders are responding,
Yes. I agree
right?
because I think you should learn your whole team, honestly.
Yes.
You know, if you learn your whole team, they're gonna you're gonna create those leaders, and those leaders are gonna create more leaders.
Exactly. Yes, Kryssi, that is the thing. That's the thing. Is I have seen what's around the corner. What's
Mm-hmm.
around the corner from I am the boss is I have spent enough time. I've taken the time to carefully explain, provide clarity, provide my own personal experience if needed in the moment, um, historical background, any analytical information or relationship insight that I've gained in working with a client or another team member, over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And what happens is I no longer find myself in the position where I am the only important decision maker, right? I'm starting to see that I've got leaders on my team who can think and decide and lead and create value without even coming to me because we've already spent the time together to do it together,
Mm-hmm. And you
right?
trust them to make those right decisions.
Trust them to make the decision. And if it wasn't exactly the way that I would have done it,
Right.
still support them in saying, that was a really great attempt at the first thing, right? Here's how we might improve it the next go around,
Mm-hmm.
right? And build on that success.
Build.
So
Yes.
I really think hopefully what we've talked about is the idea that leaders need mirrors. Here's something I want to throw out, and I'm gonna try to get to this quickly because I think that it's important.
Okay.
In a world of I think there is an opportunity to almost have like a leadership journal with a feedback loop.
Mm.
So what I'm describing is you can use ChatGPT to do this. I would highly recommend if you're going to do this, do not do it on the free version. Make sure you have the paid version, but create your own board of advisories, your own board of advisors. And so for me, I'm going to take Gino Wickman. He wrote the book Traction. It's EOS. It's what I've grown my business on, and I'll put together all the ideas and thoughts that I respect that person for. Maybe I'll get like Tony Robbins, who is sort of that motivation. He's like the state, and then maybe I'll pull in a financial person that I respect. Pull in another leader. And again, the idea is I'm putting this together because I want chat to have a context, and I'll tell it. I'm going to put together a board of advisors. I'm going to give you the people. But Kryssi, my intent in doing this is not to, I don't want it to try to predict what they would say. I wanted to have a framework that I have designed for myself. Because right now, if you go into chat and you're asking it a question, should I do this? Should I do this? Or whatever, it's just pulling some random information from best practices, right? But if I create my own board of advisors with the people that I respect, and I give chat enough context to say, I'm adding this person because I believe that they illustrate points, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I got to be prepared for this. Like, I'll probably use the voice to text kind of thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just kind of spill all of those things out. And then what I'll say is, okay, whenever I am trying to make a decision, I'm going to come to you and say, I want you to, pull together, because I'll put this in a chat project, right, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a folder, and then those instructions will be inside of there. And then I can say, okay, I'm about to go through some, whatever interviews or quarterly reports or things with my team members, and I want you to interview me as that advisory board and ask me 3 to 5 questions, one question at a time, to help me be prepared so that I can take that sort of perspective of those advisors. And Kryssi, that is an exercise that I've done that has been incredibly resourceful to me because it's instant feedback, right? And again, I'm not expecting or thinking like just because I've set this up that all of a sudden I have, all these famous people answering my questions. No, but you understand that it's a framework. It's a I've given it the context,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, the interview me part is super important because it turns the tables. It helps me be a better thinker, right? I'm not just going in and looking for it to answer my questions. And I will also 100% say, if you're going to do this, you definitely tell it. Your purpose is not to agree with me. Your purpose is to challenge me the way these advisors would challenge, based on their principles, based on the
Mm.
things that they are known for. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
So
I
I
like
think
that
that's
idea.
yeah, I think it's a total cheat code, and it's a way to, I mean, we all have our friends and family, but what if I'm up at 2 in the morning and I got these questions? Well, if I've already created my board of advisors, I can just pop on my phone and go to chat and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Activate the board. I got a board meeting. So I think that is a creative way to leverage AI in a way that's personal. Again, do not do this on the free version. Use the paid version so that everything that you discuss is within your own account and isn't shared outside of that environment. But I just wanted to give that quick cheat code because I think it's of value.
That's great. I think AI is a great tool for things like that.
Yeah, and I love sort of exploring what can it do? How can it help me become a better leader? Well, we're going to get ready for episode 8. It's coming up next. This season we've explored feeling stuck. We've talked about growth engines. We've talked about understanding human patterns. You mentioned it earlier, collective achievement. In one of the episodes, we talked about reimagining organizations. If you started building and AI was a starting point, what would you do different? We've talked about personal growth, and today we really looked at different ways to reflect that leadership mirror. So next time, we're going to connect all of those conversations and really explore what do these patterns reveal about leadership in a time of extraordinary change, right? And what kind of leader does the future require? We're so glad that you guys tuned in today. Remember, the numbers tell us what happened.
The patterns and leaders help us understand why.
We'll see you next time on the new P&L.